Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining me on Behind the Art. Big fan of yours. But yeah, just welcome to the channel.
Thanks for having me.
I know you just had a show over the weekend, right? You were
I
selling some of your
did.
stuff.
Yeah, so it was called a World of Wonder. It's the very first time they've done it. There's this brand new space in San Pedro at the port of LA called the Wunderkammer, and it basically is like an oddities expo, but one that's permanently there. And so they had rented the rest of this giant complex. Basically, it used to be where I think tanks back in the war times
Oh, okay.
were
Okay.
held. You still see like the pillars with the signage, like the markers on it, like where the tanks were placed and stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Really, it's a beautiful space. Uh, Thomas, who runs the Wunderkammer, he and his son, who's also like a lighting specialist. So they've done a really amazing job lighting the whole place, and they collaborated with my friends who own a Memento Mori shop in Hollywood because they also have a location there as well to put on this event for the very first time. So hopefully more people will know about it and go in the future. I do believe they're planning more events in October and December as well. So
Okay. That's very cool. Yeah. That's one thing that I've never done. I've never like attempted to even have like print out my stuff and actually have a booth and sell my stuff. And I think kind of like I have a lot of friends who do it. Obviously, you do it, and I have others too. But it's yeah, I think it's kind of important to do that in order to get your name out there and also to make money. But
yeah, that
I'm
too.
still kind of afraid, to be honest. Um,
It is pretty daunting, and honestly, because I make my own IP, like I'm not making fine art. I'm not um like even with shows I do a lot like Monster Palooza, a lot of people will take really well-known horror creatures and like add their own spin on it, but like I don't do any of that. And I've been with Monster Palooza since I think about 2017, and it definitely has been uh, a hard, grinding uphill battle. But because I've been doing it for so many years now, because I do Son of and Monster Palooza, that I do have repeat customers. Like even if they don't make a purchase, they always come by my booth and say hi. So that's been extremely rewarding. Or I meet new people. Like this past weekend, I had customers come and they're like, "Oh, I already like it's nice to meet you." They knew a friend of a friend, and that's why they came. Like, "Oh, actually, I have some of your prints already."
oh,
You know,
nice.
that's always nice to see. But yeah, it's definitely it's a uphill battle for sure.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like, because I've been to a few cons and it's like you have those booths that they sell their original stuff, but they also have a section that has all the IP stuff like the Marvel, all the Hollywood movie stuff.
Mhm.
And sadly, that's kind of, how a lot of people make money is because they kind of cater to the general public. But I like I do original stuff, but occasionally I'll just kind of do some fun you know comic book character stuff, but for the most part I appreciate more of the original artwork,
Mhm.
and which I love about your work because um, there's just something striking about it. It has this kind of like symbolism to it. um, I don't know if there's like I'm sure there's stories behind each piece, but I feel like anybody looking at your art can kind of project their own kind of feelings on it, which
Mhm.
is I think the purpose of artwork. Or but yeah, just tell me like when did you start like making art, or at least when did you start your art career? I don't know if you were always drawing when you were a kid and then you kind of or were you doing something else and then you kind of got into art later?
I've always been fairly creative, even as a child. Like my mom, I'd craft like little felt animals with my mom when I was little. Like in Japan, there's a lot of like crafting books like
Okay.
for kids and for adults. And so my mom had a ton of those. So we do like beading or felting, and then I got into costume making. Like my aunt, she sews and knits. She she's like the super crafty one. So and she would come visit from Japan pretty frequently, and she encouraged me. And so they like helped me buy my own, like get my own sewing machine when I was younger, and I'd buy clothes from the thrift store and like cut them up and make like my own little things out of it. And then once I got into high school, I started doing Middle Eastern dancing and making my own costuming through that as well, and like buying patterns and like teaching myself. Um, and I not so much now, but I was making a lot more headdresses too for my jewelry company. But I've had friends ask over the years, like, why didn't you go into fashion? But I feel like I mean, there's definitely like a cutthroatness to our fine art world, but it's especially stronger in the fashion world. And I remember going to the fashion district in New York with some friends and just like hearing how catty all the fashion students were. I'm like, I'm glad I didn't do this. I can just be a hermit in my space in my studio and just work. Um, so yeah, like in high school, when I decided what I wanted to go to school for, I was like fighting between like I love animals. So either going into animal husbandry or doing art. And then when I realized I'd have to put animals down, I'm like, I can't do it. And my best friend growing up, she ended up doing that and like works at the LA Zoo. Um, but I went the art route, and so I went to Boston University's College of Fine Arts for my undergrad for sculpture, and then I did my MFA at the San Francisco Art Institute for sculpture as well.
Okay.
But in between, you pretty much just anybody pretty much just did what they want, regardless of their major for the most part. So I realized partway through my master's program that I was making these large scale sculptures. I'm like, this is going to be hard to sell if I want to do this for a living. So then I started drawing because I had a strong foundational training at BU. It was very academic. Everybody didn't matter what major you were. It was 2.5 years of foundation. Everybody had drawing, sculpting, painting, and art history. And because I had that strength, I was like, oh, well, I'll just go back into drawing. But then I was doing large scale drawing still. And then that like shrunk when I was like, okay, well, I need to have things more accessible and like frame ready, hangable, and like I could do more shows. So then it was just easier going into drawing than sculpting. But I still get my sculpting bug through sculpting my jewelry pieces, but it's not the same as doing something like large scale.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually that's interesting. Like how you kind of started off with more like fashion, and then the sculpting, then the drawing came later. Um, was there a reason? Because I know, like you probably learned a lot of mediums, like when you were in college, art school, like
Mhm.
painting or oils, and so what drawed you to like using pencils? You use charcoal, or is it
Yeah,
charcoal
it's
graphite?
true. Yeah, it's
Okay.
like a charcoal, like, the main pencils I use are a charcoal graphite mixture, and then, like, my backgrounds, anything that I'm, covering on, like, a large mass is, charcoal. I have been using more of, like, the pan pastels too, like, mixing it in. It does give, like, a different texture to it, so it just depends on, like, how I want it to look. Um,
Okay.
but
So what? Okay, good.
I my skills in my drawing class were way more excellent in charcoal than they were with graphite, so I think I just, like, naturally veered that way with charcoal. And I was that nerd in drawing class that was, like, 3 hours long where you had to draw drapery. I enjoyed it.
Okay, you like the tedious kind of.
Yeah, the tedious charcoal drapery.
So is there so like because I know like a lot of I mean I would say majority of your work is black and white with added kind of gold elements. Was that a choice, or was that something like because I know because I took art class in college, and I really enjoyed using pencils because I could just kind of like I don't have to worry about mixing colors and
Mhm.
what's going to work with what. I just kind of like I can shade, I could add all these different contrast elements with just the pencil alone. Why did you pick pencils over something else like paint or
Um, I think it was just more of a practical thing because I did learn oil painting in college, but I hadn't done oil painting in like years by the time I picked it up again in grad school. Um, that it was just a faster way to render for me because I hadn't painted in so long. Uh,
yeah
that was more of a practical thing for sure. And then the black and white, I'm trying to think of, like, why I went black and white in college in grad school. I was working more, my ideas were a reflection more on, like, a commentary on art history and more, like, historical, representations of the female body and women, and I was working a lot more with the ideas and concepts of, like, hair and regardless I mean, everybody usually at this point in modern times assumes that women are the only ones that long hair have long hair, but actually like men over the ages and through different countries too, like hair has been like a very significant symbolism culturally as well. And so that's um and I've always dealt with themes of like life and death and like light and dark. And that's like the root of where most of my stuff is, like a stark like black and white. But as I've transitioned more to working with my Japanese background and integrating the cut washi flower paper that's colorful, um, it's evolved through that, but I occasionally still do like the stark like black and white for sure.
yeah yeah honestly I really like that like I because it's I like a lot of contrast in like artwork.
Mm.
um it kind of harkens back to some of those like classical Italian painters,
Oh,
like Caravaggio or whatever. I really like that kind of style. And it's also the same thing with like tattoos. Like black and white tattoos always seem to kind of stand out on your skin more than say color,
yeah,
and they
because
don't.
it eventually, like, fades too.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I really like that, and of course your ability to kind of like nail the likeness, like the face. Like I mean, I know you use yourself as reference. Was that something that because I've used myself as reference just because I didn't have anybody else around, and I'll be like, okay, I guess I can just use myself. Was that kind of the case with you, or is it like a choice to kind of include you in your artwork?
It
Or
definitely started as a choice, going back to, like, the themes I was dealing with in grad school about female representation and, um, the female body, the male gaze, especially being a person of color and a minority, and then it kinda becomes like a triple minority because I associate with, like, the Gothic scene as well. And just like as a tangent, growing up in Southern California, then going to Boston, then San Francisco, like the scene was still extremely white. Like now, so it's very different, and especially in Los Angeles. Like when I'm bending or doing events, I see all these little baby goths and they're not white. I'm like, oh yay! um, but yeah, um, I do think it's important to have POC representation within like the dark arts. And that's why I still choose to perpetuate that imagery. Um, because it's still like not as represented. I remember doing like my last podcast was with Chazar like several years ago, and like we like touched on that too, how we really don't have that many like women of color like within our scene that are represented and like and working full time too.
yeah, I mean, because I'm kind of I'm mixed. My dad's from India,
Yeah.
and my mom's from Ireland, but it's all about optics. Like I look from anybody looking at me, oh yeah, he's just white, he has blue eyes, he's light skinned.
Mhm,
But my older brother, he's darker complected, brown eyes, so he looks more Indian than
mhm,
I do. And it is kind of weird how that comes into play. Like, I mean, because I never obviously I lived in India for about 6 years, and I kind of dealt with a little bit of not like prejudice all the time, but there was a couple incidents in the school. But I could never, use that as an excuse to be like, oh yeah, I've been subjected to what other people of color have been, but
mhm.
yeah, I think you're right. There is kind of a like a stigma with like dark art, and even with like heavy metal music, like it's usually, oh, white people music as
Yeah.
opposed to rap is black people's music. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I really like that you incorporate a lot of your heritage in there. That
Mhm,
was actually going to be a question of mine, like how much of an influence is like you being of Japanese descent and like having your family from Japan, and was that a huge part of like your current artwork, or like from the beginning, or was it something that you kind of like you wanted to, I guess, show to the world, like, oh, this is my heritage and I'm proud of it? And
mhm. It definitely was, a progression, and it only really became prominent in, like, the last, like, maybe 10 years of making work, because I was just talking about this with my parents the other day, that when when my brother and I were in kindergarten, like, they told my parents that they shouldn't speak to us in Japanese and only in English.
oh, okay, wow.
And that's in Ventura County, just, like, an hour north of me. So, um, and, like, in my sorry, it's my neighbor's bird. I don't know if you hear
Oh,
it.
no worries. My kid, we have a new cat, and
Oh, okay.
she's been crying this whole time, so I'm like, hopefully it doesn't
Yeah, I hear
come
it.
through. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then, um, as, like, a teenager, I didn't really have that many, um, like, Japanese friends. I had, like, family friends of, their kids, but we weren't in the same city. And I was already going more like alternative by the time I hit junior high school. Um, and then any of the Japanese people that lived in my town, they were either fourth generation Japanese. There's nothing I could connect with them whatsoever,
Yeah.
because inside my house was Japan, like outside was America. And so there was always this like cultural straddling that always felt like uneasy and uncomfortable. Like in hindsight, I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm also in all honors classes. So then I'm in this like really tiny pocket of just the same 30 people in high school, pretty much. So, and then I went to Boston, and same thing, it was, like, predominantly white, there weren't that many Japanese people, and then finally, when I went to grad school, there were a couple, Japanese students, like, exchange students, that I was older, and we had classes together, and so there was, like, more that I could connect with, and then it, like, slowly started transitioning to be like, "Okay, like, I'm actually, like, as a woman and a woman of color, I'm, like, proud and happy about my heritage and background." Whereas, like, up until the last, like, 10 plus years, like, it was always, like, an awkward, like, I don't feel, like, fitting in into the groups of friends I'm in, or the, um, environments I'm in, so like, I've been pretty lucky in, like, not having that many, uh, like, racist things happen to me, growing up, but, um, you still get, like, the microaggressions.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine, especially during certain, like, with the whole COVID thing happening, and how they said it was, people, they look at someone who's of Asian descent, they think automatically, oh, you're from
Right.
China, you're from, like, they don't realize that, Asia is, I mean, even, Indians are considered Asian too. I mean, they're South Asian. So there's like, it's a huge area of people, it's not just, yeah. So, but, but
Yeah,
yeah, go.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was definitely hard then because my dad's a gardener, and so he was able to like keep working during COVID because it was just all outdoors. Um, and if you drive through Thousand Oaks, there's like the giant Trump signs, and I'm like,
Yeah.
careful. But then now, right now is like scary too because they're just attacking gardeners like out on the street as well, and I'm just yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have my thoughts on like what the political climate at the moment, but yeah, we could probably have a whole
Right.
podcast talking about that. um, so as an artist, as I can kind of relate, like, do you feel that artists are kind of like built differently than, like, say, just someone who isn't an artist? Like, there's a certain drive that an artist has more so than like someone who's not involved in creating,
I
or do
think
you think?
yeah, no, for sure. Like one of my earliest memories of realizing that differentiation was when I was in my work study at the registrar's office at BU, and we're grading. I was like in the College of Fine Arts, our registrar, and I had some other student from just like the general studies. Basically, it's like they just don't know what they want to do, but they had to go to college.
Yeah.
Uh, so they're just waffling, whatever. And they're like looking at our grades and they're like, what? Orchestra? They got everybody's getting an A in orchestra. Like that seems so easy. I'm like, it's actually not. Like you have no idea how much if you're really dedicated to your craft, regardless of what art you're in. Like my friends who were in the music department, like same with me and like my close friends, like after we're done with classes, each class is 3 hours long. Some days were blocked for like 9 hour days of
Wow.
being in class and working. And then on top of it, like I had multiple part-time jobs to be able to like try to supplement and live there in school. And then after that, we'd be in the studio till whenever we're done, maybe like 2, 3 in the morning, like every week. And then I know my friends who were musicians, they were they left at like 2, 3 in the morning like we did from their sound booths. So whereas, the general studies kids were just done after they're finished their homework and they didn't do anything else. And so the like dedication drive for sure, I think is different for like any like working artist, I feel like.
Yeah, I kind of feel like artists tend to get taken advantage of through all industries because
Yeah.
people know that they enjoy it for the creation. Like, whether you get paid, whether you get a lot of money or not, you want to do good work.
Yeah.
And I think some people, they take advantage of that. And but yeah, but it takes a kind of a certain mentality as an artist to be like fine with it and
Mhm.
knowing that I need to create, because if I don't create, then I'm a, not good, I'm not easy to be around, because I'm the same way. If I don't create something, at least like, once a week, I'll get really like depressed,
Mhm.
or I'll feel like if I don't get my creative outlet out. And you know, I'm not sure if someone who's just kind of clocking in and out at some desk job, that, just kind of punching in some numbers and like able to like clock out and just like go home and completely not think about anything until the
Yeah.
next day. Like, I'm always thinking my next move. Okay, well, I just finished work. Now I can work on this project. I can do this. I can do this painting or whatever. And it's kind of like a blessing and a curse.
It is, no, it is. I've always, seen myself with having, like, a little bit of, like, naivety
Yeah.
with the drive that I have and the grit, because I've it's been a little over 10 years now that I'm doing this full time.
Oh
And
wow. Okay.
like, monetarily, it's definitely like this, and I've always had pets, and so when things are tough, I'm like, "Well, I have to buy art supplies, and I gotta feed my cats." So they're getting the things they need, but I'm like, "Okay, I'll just eat rice and potatoes." I'm like, fine with that, like, if I 'cause, like, I'm like, "Okay, well, this is my living, this is my career, this is what I'm passionate about," and then my babies. So
Yeah, actually, this
I've
this is
always
perfect.
I've always been like that, so
Okay. This actually kind of is going to go into my next question. Like, what are, because I know you, like you just said, you've been doing this for 10 years. So, what's the positives and what's the negatives of owning your own business?
I definitely do not enjoy doing any of the social media, um, circus, but we have to, right? Like,
Yeah, totally.
I don't have, um, the means currently to pay for it. I always joke with my friends and my partner how if we won the lotto, that we would like still both be working, but I could supplement. I could pay somebody like a living wage to do my website, my social media, like all the things I don't enjoy doing. Like after we get off this podcast, I always do a summer sale. So I'm like, gotta work on my mailing list and like make the little images to like post that nobody's gonna see. Like stuff like that, like I do not enjoy doing. It would be uh like with the jewelry side, it'd be nice if um I could just design it, sculpt it, make sure everything's great, and then like have my caster do all of it. So then I'm happy that I could pay her more to do more work, and then I could just be like, "Okay, I need 5 of these things, 8 of these, and 7, and I'll pick up next week." Instead of I've gotten also part of it is also my quality control too, of, like,
Yeah,
to make sure because 'cause, most casters deal with, especially in downtown LA, deal with fine jewelry making, so when they're um, cleaning up jewelry pieces, they tend to just like over polish. Whereas I like my things looking rough and like antiqued and old. And so that's part of it too. Whereas I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting better about handing like half the things off. And then the other half, I still do have to do the finishing and like cleaning up the waxes. And then there's like less work in the metal and like steps like that. But if I had the means to be able to, I can just show them everything, how give them the master and be like, "This is exactly how the finished product should look like," and, like, have them do all of it, right? Whereas I'm just the one designing and, like, dealing with the sales and stuff at that point. Stuff like that is, like, not enjoyable. Uh, but the good things, is really, like, the feedback from clients and fans and things like that. I like, when I have people come up and be like, "Oh my god, I was having such a hard time in life, and I found your work, and, um, I bought one of your necklaces, that's like a talisman or an art piece that really touched my heart, and it means so much to me, and I look at it or wear it, like, all the time, and it gives me strength and hope," but I'm just like, "Oh," 'cause, I made those for myself to have those things imbued within myself, but once I put it out there, like you're saying earlier, like, anybody can implement their thoughts and feelings onto what the visual art piece is. So, um, yeah, or, like, having, people come up to me when I'm vending and they're like, "Oh, like, I can't afford this right now, but I really love it. I'm gonna, follow you." And then the next year or even, like, several years later, they're like, "I saved up money and, like, I could buy the thing now." It's like, "Oh, that's so," it's so special. Like, obviously, like, I wanna make sales, but I'm also not a pushy person.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
unless they really want it, I'm not gonna, um, I'm not gonna push them to, like, buy any of my pieces. That feels awful, right? Because 'Cause I'm, like, I'm making these things out of, like, the bottom of my heart, and I'm making them so they're well crafted and well made. So I'm and also as a shopper, like, outside, like, I don't like people accosting me, like, I like things, but
Same.
I'm not,
Yeah.
like, leave me alone. So I do the same thing. Yeah, so those are, like, yeah, those are a couple, like, positive, negative things, I guess, about business owning, and, um, I think for the most part, I've gotten kind of used to, like, the money doing and being like, "Oh, shit, hopefully I make it up next month."
Yeah, I kind of because I about 3 years ago I lost my job,
Mhm.
and so I was like, I luckily I found a gig like
Oh,
maybe 8 months later, and
good.
it's a contract gig as a graphic designer, and but like I'll experience the stuff that freelancers do, like where it's like I'll get a lot of work coming in one month, and then the next month it won't be as much, so my pay is like fluctuating. So it's definitely a new experience. I mean, the good thing is I can work from home. I can make my own hours, but the bad thing is I work from home and I can make my own hours, and
Right.
sometimes it's like you think something's going to be really cool, and then once you're like working from home, it's like you literally. Luckily, I have like our office here. I can just kind of like if
The
I
close.
want to, yeah, change the scenery, I can just walk out, but there's not that separation of like work life and personal life.
Mhm.
And because me and my wife, we have a son,
Yeah.
11-year old, and I'm getting used to it, but it took some time to kind of get my routine down. I
Mhm.
was just wondering what's your routine like your average day, when you're not scrambling to get to a show and sell stuff, just like kind of like your creative day, I guess.
It starts with, um, making coffee and feeding the cats. So I keep looking this way, Cowboys right over here. And then I do the social media stuff and answering emails, um, and then I do try to get some kind of, like, workout in, then eat lunch, and then, like, my day usually starts, like, around, like, noon or, like, now. Um, and then I'll, like, work throughout the day, and then if I'm, like, prepping for conventions, I have a lot of stock to make, I'll tend to, like, work, like, later into the night too. So, that's, like, the general, like, daily timeline for me.
So you're pretty so yeah, you're pretty scheduled then. You're not like just sporadically like because I know the older you get, like I used to be able to stay up super late and work on stuff, but now that like I'm 42, like I just get
We're the same
really
age.
tired really quickly, and I'm like I want to get everything done during the day and then like be done with it, and then but there are occasions where I have to work late. But
Yeah, because like, you also have your family too, and, like, I I would assume you'd want, like, family time as well. Like, my partner lives with me now, so, like, when he comes home from work, um, I tend to, unless I'm, like, strapped with time, like you said, I tend to, like, have dinner and then, like, we'll watch stuff. Um, but when he, like, on the weekends, he, works on his writing, so those times, like, if he's feeling, like, motivated to keep going, like, I'll tend to, like, keep working, like, later too. But I also have my, uh it's actually not as, like, solid of workflow depending on what the cats are doing. Had that cats are like, they're so, independent and, like, they just leave me alone. But no, like, they know because 'cause I'm sitting here, so it's different, it's in front of my computer. But if my drawing table is right next to me, and if I sit there, it doesn't matter where the cats are, like, they know to come bug me. And then, like,
oh
they'll go
yeah,
in.
I was actually going to ask you that. How do you manage to? Because I know you post like on your stories, you're literally like drawing, and then your cat's like on your shoulder. Because
Yeah.
we just got a new cat, and she's this little black kitten. Love her to death, but she is insane.
Oh, yeah.
and I literally have to like make sure she's like kind of sleeping in her little cot, and then I'll like sneak into the, I'll close the office door and just like try to be quiet so she doesn't get bothered. And it's like it's been a struggle because like we had an older cat that we had to put down because she had cancer, but she was so mellow, and she would just kind of do her own thing, and
Yeah.
she didn't care. But this new cat is like, give me
Oh,
the
'cause she's
attention.
cute. Yeah, 'cause she's a little baby.
Yeah, totally.
I just have to I just have to deal with it because Bebop, my black one, she's, like, very persistent, and she'll start chewing things like my cables or my pencils, and she's destructive, so I just have to be like, "Okay, you need your, like, 10 minutes of, like, cuddle time," and then I'm, like, on my phone, just, like, beep bopping on my phone, and then she finally leaves, and then, like, I'm like, "Okay, I gotta, like, get in my, like, zone again of working," but then occasionally they'll go on rotation, and once Beebs is happy and goes back downstairs, I'm in a loft, so there's no, like, closed doors besides the
Okay.
'cause I can't lock doors like you do. Cowboy's usually upstairs with me because she's my puppy cat. She's always, like, around me. But she tends to, like, sleep most of the time unless she wants wet food. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's that's how I manage or not manage.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely, I love cats. I think they're like my favorite. I'm not really a dog person, even though I don't mind
Mhm.
the occasional like dog. We have a friend who has a little Dachshund like puppy, and he'll come over, but she's like super sweet. But yeah, I'm a cat person for sure. They're just like chill for the most part.
Also,
Um,
like, you don't have to go walk the dogs. Whereas
oh,
my boyfriend really wants a dog, and I grew up with dogs too. Um
okay.
and I love them. I would love another one, but I'm the one working from home. So I'd have to walk them at least twice while he's gone. And I'm like, but then, right now, I know you've been watching my stories. I've been raising the monarch. So I go outside
Oh
anyway,
yeah.
and I'm like out there, like making sure they're not getting eaten by other bugs and birds.
Okay.
So my
Yeah,
entire distracted with going outside during the summer.
yeah. It's hard. It's hard for me to like because I want to get in that. I want to keep that flow, or what you call it, the flow state, when you're just like so focused, you can just get work done. But the moment something happens and just distracts you, you're like, ah, shit, I have to like get back into the like, getting to work. And then I sometimes like, I can't, I
Yeah,
have to like take an extended break. But it's good to take breaks,
for
go
sure.
out for a walk and all that stuff. Yeah.
We're not, like, crouched like this.
Oh yeah, yeah. I already, because I work out a little bit in the morning too, because my back is just, yeah, it's just over the years just
Oh my god.
sitting.
Yeah, between drawing and then my jewelry bench is right here. My this whole if I'm working too much, there's that pinch that happens here and then, like, radiates all to my left hand.
Yeah.
Yay, being over 40.
It's great. So has there ever been a point where you kind of like were considering not doing art anymore and like switching careers completely?
No. I mean, I've talked about this with my partner, with, like, the state of the world, if because it's a luxury, like, what I do. I make luxury items, like art and jewelry. Not everybody thinks that, luckily, but,
Yeah.
it's not they're not essential goods, and so if the world keeps falling apart and I'm not selling as much and things get crazy, like, if I need to, like, I will go get a job at Trader Joe's if I can,
Yeah.
just the necessities of living. It's expensive living in Los Angeles. I'm in like a really nice loft space, but because it's big, there's a lot of money. Like the overhead's a lot for sure. Between that and car insurance is more expensive here in Los Angeles, car payments, and then utilities and like all the things just add up. So, um, I mean, hopefully I don't have to get to that point. We
Yeah.
can get over this weird hump that we're in right now. But yeah, hopefully I don't, and I could just keep doing this. But I'm kind of
Yeah.
like, used to the struggle, so I'm not as scared currently, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I understand the whole like the cost of living because we live on the Central Coast. We kind of live by Santa Cruz,
Mm.
Monterey, and luckily we bought the house because we
Oh,
had
good.
we had help previously about 10 years ago from our in-laws, and they helped us with the down payment. But we were able to sell our other house in order to get this one. But
Okay.
even that, like our mortgage is pretty high, and then on top of that, you have if anything breaks in your house, it's your responsibility.
And then the property tax every year.
Yeah, all that stuff too, and it's just kind of like yeah, it's not cheap, and luckily my wife, she's bringing in money as well, and I'm extremely frugal, so it's like I can just kind of make I cook a lot, so I cook at home all the time.
Yeah, we do
You know,
most of our cooking at home too.
so, but yeah, it's tough. I mean, but I think it's good to kind of have that mentality of like, okay, I'm struggling. I'm already used to struggling, so if things get even harder, you're going to be able to navigate that more so than someone who is used to certain things. Um, I was actually going to ask you, like, living in LA, being so close to kind of like the entertainment industry, and like, has that helped your career, like propel your career, knowing that there's like, a lot of like creatives, like people who work in Hollywood, people who, work in the music business, kind of just walking around. Because I've been to LA a few times, and I know like the vibe is very just like I'm trying to make it. Like I want to become a movie star, or I want to like my band wants to get signed, yada yada yada. But do you think that like living in that area has helped? Like say if you were living in like Timbuktu or something, would it be drastically the same, or would it be different?
I feel like 'cause a lot of my friends and I, like a couple of my best friends have moved like out of state um within the last couple years, and they're videographers. So um I I personally, the benefit of still living here is that I can go to all our openings, and the more you go out, the more people they remember you because everybody's attention span is very short with how social media is, like how it's
Yeah,
trends. So I've definitely like been at art shows where I'm not showing, but like going to support the gallery or my friend's showing, and then I happen to be in a conversation with a curator. They're like, "Oh, hey, do you want to be in this show like in 2 months from now?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that'd be great." So in that way, like being present and um constantly showing, I think is really important. Like, I wouldn't be able to do that if I lived out in the middle of nowhere. Like, I like all that stuff wouldn't be as accessible to me. When it comes to like the entertainment industry, like I feel like the only um, foothold it really has on my career is that like when things were great, like Monster Palooza is great
yeah,
because that's it started with industry heavy showings, and they've expanded. Like I don't make like creature designs or special effects stuff, but um, I've been showing for like almost 10 years there now. And, there are like in entertainment industry people and like movie stars and stuff that come and like shop there. So in that way, I'm affected by the industry, but like not so much when it comes to getting my work out there or like selling or, um, and also I think because I, like, grew up in Ventura County, and it's so close to Los Angeles. A ton of my friends who are creatives have ended up moving out here because there's, like, Ventura County's boring. I mean, there's still, like we still benefited from when we were kids, the Ventura Theater, like, pretty much had every band still go through there. like any like big or small band would play at Venture Theater. So musically, I benefited from that. But other than that, like any of like the all kids are able to move, like we all moved to LA. So I already
Yeah.
have that like friend, like family base here. Whereas I know a lot of implants like have struggled with finding like really like honest friendships and like but I also think as you grow older, like I feel like by now our age, we know who is a sycophant and who's just trying to use us and like who's actually genuinely like wanting to be friends with you and like wanting to connect with you on like a deeper level. I mean, I still like occasionally run into people like that, but for the most part, like um, I don't really like see it. So
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely, when it's almost like you kind of, like you said, you sort of like, know how to read people a little bit better because you have more experience. And
yeah.
also you've learned from your mistakes. You've dealt with difficult people or people who are using you.
Mhm.
But yeah, and also just the fact that you're just grown tired of like
Right.
there's no, like, like in high school, you're always trying to like be cool or whatever. But when you're out of high school as an adult, you just realize like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to be myself, and like, it doesn't matter what people think of me. And
Yeah.
you can be my friend if you want. If you don't, then that's fine. And
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think, yeah, I think naturally, the older you get, like your group of friends kind of shrinks. Because even when me and my wife started dating like 18 years ago, it was like, we were invited to all these like different parties, and then it's like you get married, and then you all of a sudden you're lumped into the married couple groups. And then she got pregnant, and then it's like we're thinking, oh, we're gonna have to like find another couple that has kids so we can like bring him,
Mhm.
bring our son over. And then it's like even after the having the kids, like the friends that start disappearing, and it's just like, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's just your family unit is like by itself.
No, one of my girlfriends, who's helped me a ton with like my makeup and hair for shoots, she has 2 little kids and she's like definitely expressed that. But they're like at an age now where she can like bring them to Monster Foods and stuff. So it's like it's cute to like see them there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish like I'm not one of those parents that tries to like force my things on my son or whatever. But like, it is kind of cool when he takes interest in like some of the stuff that I'm doing, like just like randomly, like, oh, that's cool, Dad, I like that. It's like, oh, thanks, sweet. But he's like super into like soccer and like
Oh, you got
obsessed.
the opposite. I
Yeah,
said that if I ever had kids, they're totally gonna be like football playing cheerleaders.
but yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah, he's a sweet kid. So like, I know we kind of talked about it, like you putting on shows. So like you have cons, and then you have like kind of art shows. Like, how do you get into that, like that field? Like, say if I were to paint some stuff, do I have to like contact a studio? Do I have to know people? Like, how does that work? How do you like get a job to like
It's
showcase your?
it's definitely a mixture, like, some galleries have open calls, like La Luz de Jesus, here in Los Angeles, they do, like, an annual open call, or, like, with Copro Gallery, um, one of my friends who had occasionally been curating shows as, like, a guest curator, like, he invited me in, and then from there, the owners, invited me to, like, subsequent shows. So that's kind of how it works. It's either they find you or you reach out, but then there's also, like, a mixture of galleries where they're like, "We're not accepting anybody right now." So it's really just finding the galleries that you wanna work with and, like, seeing um what their requirements are, or you can do the long game of going to all the openings
And then
and
handing out cards. Here you go.
not necessarily handing out cards, but just like getting to know the people there and like um becoming friends with them. And then I mean it's like what industry isn't nepotistic at this point? Right?
Oh yeah.
It's like who you know and like how who gets you in. Um I don't know if anybody like I've curated like a fundraising show, Copro, and I've had other artists come in through that channel, but I haven't followed up to see if they've ever like pursued showing like Copro more or not. So I think it just depends. But starting with like the like smaller galleries, I think helps like get your work out there for sure.
Yeah, because I was even, because we have in our house we have like this atrium, this like indoor atrium,
Mhm.
and I was like talking to my wife, and I was all like, what if I just like, bought these kind of like, wall things, and we can just set up a little studio, and then like invite people over, and then they could like look at the art, and I wouldn't have to go to a studio
Mhm.
outside. But then I was thinking like then people will know where we live, and then I don't know if that's legal. Like, just inviting people over to your house for for an art show, or
I mean,
you
but
know,
it's your house, it's your property, you can, like, do whatever you want, right?
yeah. I mean, I assume it's legal, but there's
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
me that's just like, is it legal? Like would
Yeah,
that be
well,
okay?
yeah, I that has to be totally legal, like, 'cause you know, you work from home, like, I work from home too, so it's like a live workspace.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's fine. It's just more of a matter of, like, do you want people knowing where you live and, like, being in your personal space?
yeah, that's the question. It's like I think with online, I think that's kind of because I mostly do like I work with bands,
Mhm, yeah.
and majority of the time I only communicate through emails. Like rarely I'll go on a phone call, or
Mm,
a video call with the bands. So there's that certain like I think in your case it's like when you're displaying, you have to actually physically go there and talk to people like in
mm,
person. But with what I do, it's like I can just like send someone a message, hey, do you want me to do your album cover? Sure, and that's it. So I'm just kind of like I think I'm afraid to kind of step past that. And plus, I work digitally, so I would have to print everything and all that stuff. And I think what you do, because your art is like physical, like, when you buy a piece of yours, it's like, oh yeah, I own Stephanie's work. Her hands were on this
mhm.
piece, and there's something special about that. But when it comes to like a digital piece, it's like, unless you can add some flourishes to kind of make it unique, it's like pretty much like anybody can just go on your website and like copy and print out your artwork, and it's kind of the same. So
Mhm.
I kind of wanted to get into more traditional artwork because I do draw and I do paint, but again, it's like it's not what's paying me at the moment, so I tend to kind of not
Yeah,
focus on it.
it's, like, sidelined.
Yeah, exactly. Especially right now I'm like kind of really busy with my job.
Mhm.
So any moment I get, it's easier just to turn on Photoshop and do some my usual stuff, and
Yeah.
instead of like painting. But yeah.
Well, I hope you can get into it. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of experimenting a little bit with just like abstract painting, just kind of like honestly I like that kind of stuff. That's just like people look at it and go, oh, it just looks like a bunch of paint splattered on the canvas, but I find that kind of a beauty about it, like just the randomness and texture. I love textures. I love seeing stuff like that, and it's kind of like a lot of people don't get it, but I'm like, I kind of like that stuff.
Well, if it makes you happy, you know,
Yeah.
do what you feel like fulfilled your soul.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question. What's your dream project to work on, like that if you haven't already? Like what would you want to work on, like if it was like you can do anything?
I've had this sculpture in mind since my master's program. So I don't know if you've seen photos of that like giant spine that's currently at a shop in Burbank right now.
Yeah, I think I saw it on your website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so then I continued that theme when I made that in college initially, and then in grad school, I sculpted. I made this giant installation. with 1,000 vertebrae. They're pretty close to human size, maybe a little bit bigger. I made about like 10 or 11 of them. I had a mold and all cast in plaster, and they're hung like an hourglass. So the top ones were hung in like a V like this, and then uh, the ones on the floor like met up at the same like angle. And I want to. I've always wanted to recreate that sculpture out of porcelain, like porcelain feathers,
Oh,
um,
okay.
and um, it'd be amazing to like have it at a museum because the idea behind it is like in Japanese culture, if you make 1,000 paper cranes or like 10,000, it's supposed to be good luck, or you can like make a wish based off of completing the paper cranes. You see a lot at like peace sites, like in Japan or like in the States. Um, so that'd be kind of the idea, and I had made a proposal. I don't know, I can't remember what it was, what organization it was through, but I felt like it'd be perfect to install that at the Japanese American Museum here in downtown LA, because they do their main focus for the museum is to educate people on the concentration camps, and that history of Japanese Americans. And so I wanted to be able to have the people like write like so there would be like an abundant amount of these feathers, like more so than 1,000 being shown, and they could like write their wish or something like on the feather and either leave it or like take it with them. So that's always been my dream. Or also just like having a museum show. I
Yeah.
think that like hoity-toity part of me of going to fine art school. That's like I still want to do this and like have this goal of being able to show in the museum. Um, but yeah, we'll see.
Honestly, I think it will happen. I mean, because yeah, I think it will. You've already have experience, showing your work, and I think just talk to the right people, and but yeah, that's very cool, like a cool idea. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for taking the time
Yeah,
to
thanks so
do
much.
this.
Hopefully this was
Um,
okay.
yeah, I'm gonna leave all your like website stuff below the video so people can check your stuff out. I appreciate you guys watching the channel. Let us know what you think. Leave a comment, share on social media. But yeah, it was great chatting with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.